Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to the show. Today, I have a special guest. Her name is Andrea Nakayama, and she is a functional medicine practitioner. And we're going to talk today about functional medicine and how it can be used specifically in midlife and in longevity. We had a great conversation, and we talked about the principles of aging well and of creating balance in the body, particularly in midlife. But we also talked about the power of mindset during this phase of life, purpose, and how the culture impacts our ideas of what it means to age, and how that downstream impacts our actual aging, our experience of aging, and how long we live in a state of health. Because in medicine, there's something called lifespan and health span. So your lifespan is just how long you live, but your health span is how long you live and are healthy, right? That you can do all the things that you want to do in your life that light you up and bring you joy. And so we're not just looking for lifespan, we're really looking for health span. We want to be able to live long and live healthfully throughout those years. And so we talked about all the things that impact those as well. We touched on epigenetics a little bit, which is the science behind your genes and how they express themselves. So we all have genes, but they aren't all expressed, and we can learn how to turn on the genes we want and turn off the ones that we don't. So lots of topics covered today. This is a great episode, and I hope you enjoy it. Please listen to the end because we get into a great discussion at the end that you won't want to miss. All right, I'll see you on the other side. This episode of the Midlife Purpose Project is brought to you by Katie Farinas Coaching, soul-centered spiritual coaching for women in midlife who are ready for more clarity, peace, freedom, and purpose. Maybe you've done everything right, and yet you are left wondering, is this all there is to life? Why do I feel so anxious, unfulfilled, disconnected, or joyless? Is there something wrong with me? You've tried countless things to make yourself feel better, taking a dream vacation, changing jobs, getting a hobby, or purchasing a coveted item. While these things left you feeling better for a while, the high never lasted. Disconnection and emptiness snuck back in time and time again. Here's the truth. There is nothing wrong with you, and lasting peace, joy, connection, and meaning cannot be found in the places culture tells us they are. They are found in coming into alignment with our soul and its purpose for being here. In my coaching, we start by calming the nervous system, because when your body feels safe, your heart can open, your mind can quiet down, and you get courageous. From that grounded place, we'll uncover and release limiting beliefs, those hidden stories that keep you stuck, so you can finally see new possibilities and align your actions with your values. Together, we'll get you in touch with your intuition so you can uncover your soul's purpose, your dharma, the reason you are here. Because when you live aligned with your dharma, life feels lighter, more connected, and deeply fulfilling. If you're ready to move beyond anxiety and disconnection and create a life that feels peaceful, purposeful, and wholly your own, it's time to take that first step, a step toward the life you desire, a step towards you. Book your free discovery call today at katiefarinas.com/discovery-call, or click the link in the show notes, because the second half of life isn't about settling. It's about awakening to who you were always meant to be. All right, Andrea, welcome to the Midlife Purpose Project.
Thank you, Katie. I'm excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to have this conversation. I think our viewers are really going to appreciate this conversation a lot. We focus a lot on mind-body connection here, and we talk a lot about spirituality, but we don't always get into the details of the physical body and keeping the body healthy,
Yes.
Especially in this midlife era. And it's so important. It's just not my expertise, which is why you are here to talk to us about how to stay healthy or improve our health really in midlife. Because it is a time, especially for women, where their bodies are rapidly changing. There is a ton of information out there. It can be very overwhelming and
Yes.
very expensive. And so sometimes it's a little bit hard to know where to turn and what to do. And then I think sometimes inevitably we kind of throw our hands up in the air and do nothing because the overwhelm sets in. So let's see if maybe today we can help our listeners to have a better understanding and a simple kind of idea of how they can step into wellness in this phase. Does that sound
Yes,
good? All right.
absolutely. Love it.
Love it. Okay. So tell us about you. You are a functional practitioner. So tell us what that is.
Yes, so I'm a functional medicine nutritionist, and I'm the founder of Functional Nutrition Alliance, where I train other providers, all sorts of providers, from yogis to coaches to nurses, dietitians, in my methodologies. And that methodology is very aligned with functional medicine. And if I talk about the primary tenets of a truly functional practice, that means we are working in a therapeutic partnership. We are looking for the root causes, and we're embracing systems-based approach, a systems biology. So if I just break that down from a functional perspective, you as the patient are an expert in the room along with me. So I have my expertise as a functional medicine nutritionist. You have your expertise in you. And that if you are not part of the equation, you are likely not going to get better. Meaning, you have a history, you have biology, you have things that work for you and things that don't, which is what we call mediators in functional medicine. Looking for the roots means we ask, why is this happening? Not just what do I do about it? And Katie, you mentioned the noise we are exposed to today, especially in this time of life, and especially right now in the perimenopause and menopause industrial complex that we are exposed to, where we're being sold everything from dietary plans to supplements to hormone therapies, all of the things. So when we are looking for the roots, we're saying, wait a minute, why is this happening? Not just what do I do about it? That weight gain, that fatigue, the reduced sex drive, the foggy brain, all of it. Why not what? And that systems-based approach means we embrace the realities of systems biology. And this is a real fun area to explore mindset. And systems biology basically means we recognize that everything is connected. Your gut is connected to your brain. Your gut is connected to your detoxification, which your hormones rely on your detoxification, which is connected to your gut, which is connected to your immune system. Everything is connected. So in short, my mantra is everything is connected. We are all unique and all things matter. And that's functional.
Okay, that's fantastic. I love that definition because really in traditional medicine, and I don't know if you know my background, but I just left the bedside as
Nurse.
a nurse. Yes,
Yes.
and we really separate the body and
Yes.
we isolate systems and often don't recognize how they interconnect. But we're an organism. That's what we
Yes.
are, and we cannot decide that the pieces of the organism do not communicate. We would have a horribly functioning body if the
Yes.
pieces of our organism did not communicate with one another. So it just makes so much sense
Yes.
that you would, have to look at the whole body and that each person is an individual and what works for one may not work for another. So I love your definition. Tell us how you came to this work. So
Yeah.
was this something you always did, or did you find your way here?
Yeah, and I have to say, Katie, like about 20% of the students that I teach are coming from a nursing background who have come to the realization of what you just said
Yes.
and recognizing that they're not in a patient-centered care model, which is what they were looking for. And I say that to everybody here who may not be a practitioner, but just to recognize that oftentimes we have to be our own advocate because the system may not be advocating for us. And that doesn't mean we show up with our hands on our hips. It means we fill the gaps between our medical visits with what we can do. And this is what led me to the work. So back in April of 2000, so over 25 years ago, when I was 7 weeks pregnant, my late husband, Isamu, was diagnosed with a very aggressive brain tumor, a glioblastoma multiforme. And he was given about 6 months to live. I was 7 weeks pregnant, so we can do the math there. He was not expected to see our son born. During that time, I mean, we were young, we were in our 30s and we were starting our family. I really was exposed to the gaps in our medical system for the first time. We had never really been in the system. And for those who haven't had a acute or chronic healthcare crisis, you don't get into the system. It's just this other thing. But as soon as you're in it, you see a different world. And I began to see some major gaps. So I saw that Isamu was treated like his diagnosis. He wasn't a person who had that diagnosis. He was that diagnosis. And that everybody with the same diagnosis was treated the same. There was a protocol. And as a previous nurse, you know that that's how the system works. Everybody's the same with that diagnosis. And there's a place and a time for that. I'm not here to disparage that model in acute care. So Isamu lived 2.5 years. He died when our son was 19 months old. As I was just telling you, that son is 24, graduated from college 2 years ago, lives in Tokyo now, and is doing great, knock on wood. And I really recognized that I needed to remake myself to help fill the gaps in healthcare. So I worked in book publishing. I had a very successful career in book publishing as a production director, and I put myself back through years of school to practice this and then realize people wanted to learn what I was doing because I was having success in practice.
Wow, that is That is really a story of taking a true dark night of the soul experience and using it to fuel your purpose.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about that on this show. So our listeners will probably be familiar with this concept of, basically taking one of the worst things that's ever happened to you and using it to evolve into an expanded version of yourself that can serve yourself and serve the world. So
yes, and that purpose drives us through the challenges. That this work being in Isamu's name is what's helped me cross those barriers, whether they were my own self-beliefs or whatever they were. So I just want to say, for me and my model, purpose is at the heart, as it is for you, of how I train others. If we don't know that purpose, we will make lots of excuses. We will do all the things to keep us from really stepping into what matters.
Yes. And without that, like you said, when you hit barriers, you're more likely to give up. Give up and say it's too hard, or I can't do it, and I'm not capable, whatever the, things we say to ourselves are. But when you can come back to that why, when you can come back to that internal fire, it really helps you to, be resilient and move through those challenging times. And what you said about the gaps, I remember so many times in my nursing career, and I was in women's health, and there is just a horrible lack of research in women's health. And so when it comes to that area of healthcare, the options are a lot more limited than in a lot of other areas of healthcare. Right. And I can't tell you how many times women would come in complaining of whatever their symptoms were. And they were brought down the algorithm of, first you try this, if that doesn't work, then you try this, so on and so forth. And still by the end, we'd reached the end of this algorithm and the symptoms had not resolved. They had not improved in any way. And the patient was feeling really desperate.
Yes.
And the practitioner was feeling really frustrated, right?
Yes.
Because now they have used every tool in their toolbox and it's not working. And often that frustration led to blaming the patient, right? That
Yes.
there's something wrong with the patient. They are dramatic. They're overstating the intensity of what they're experiencing. They just have to deal with it. Quite frankly, you just have to deal with it. And it was such a frustrating experience for me personally as a nurse because there's lack of power there, right? There's not much
Yes.
I can do about that. Although I did start telling my patients about functional medicine. I did start sneaking that in there once I learned about it. But yeah, so there is this gap, as you said, and yes, acute care has its place and it does wonderful things, but also, yes, and right, there
Yes,
are those
and
gaps.
yes.
And functional medicine is such a beautiful way of filling those gaps, or
Yes.
even preventing having to need acute care at all.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And I just want to give one caveat there because I feel like functional medicine has evolved considerably in the 20 years that I've been in the field. And now it does tend to work a little bit more in the X for Y or protocol based model, which may be a diet based on a diagnosis or a supplement stack based on what you're experiencing or over testing. There's a lot I can say about like functional medicine and those three tenets that I shared, the therapeutic partnership, the root causes, the systems based. That is the heart. That is the core of what the functional medicine model in the 1990s was built upon. It has also become influenced by this quick fix protocol based way of thinking that we have. So I just say that to folks to not necessarily get caught in the I have to test for everything. And I'll give some models and ways of thinking that we can reframe how we can do self-care that don't keep us in that sympathetic dominant, that
Yes.
fight or flight quest that you mentioned patients are in when they're frustrated and not getting better. It becomes a quest, and that quest isn't a state we can heal in. That is a fight or flight state. So I really just want to call that out because to heal, we need to be in the parasympathetic dominant, that rest and digest state.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And there's a whole I don't know what the word is, but there's a lot of information now out there about regulating the nervous system
Yes.
in order to heal, that we're not
Yes.
going to heal unless we learn to regulate our nervous systems first.
Yes.
And that's a lot in pain medicine. People who are treating patients with chronic pain are now
Yep.
actually really starting to adopt that thinking.
Yes.
So there are advancements even in the
Yes.
acute care setting. There really are. And I myself my whole family sees a functional provider, and we also see traditional medicine
Yes.
providers. And sometimes they're open and receptive, and sometimes they're not.
Correct.
But hopefully this podcast is like the permission slip to all the listeners that it doesn't matter if your traditional provider doesn't understand it or thinks it's woo or whatever their thought process is going on there. You need to advocate for yourself. And so you do what you need to do.
Yes.
And don't be influenced by maybe some negative feedback you may receive if you talk to a traditional provider about this.
Yeah, and I want to just give everybody a little hint there. I mean, one of the things that we used to hear a lot is, somebody might have digestive issues and your conventional doctor may say what you eat has nothing to do with it, right? Like that's an obvious. Food is what we put in our bodies to feed our cells. Of course, your digestive system matters. And for me as a nutritionist, that's core. But I also just want to share with listeners that oftentimes today we are told which labs we need to have run, even if they're serum labs. Like for your thyroid, you may be following an influencer who says you need these labs, and then you go to your doctor and you ask for those labs and they won't run them. I want to say that doctor isn't out to get you. they don't know what to do with those labs. So
Yeah.
doctors are working within their scope of practice. And I think it's important to know, if you go to your doctor and ask for something and they say no, it's not that they don't believe you. They literally wouldn't know what
Yeah.
to do with that
Yes.
marker. So they can't code it, they can't treat to it. And so it's sometimes finding a different provider or an additional provider who,
Hmm.
if you're looking for something that you want to do or explore, can support you through that. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to offer that, because what I see is not only that sympathetic dominance in the quest, but the anger that people develop
Yeah.
towards their medical providers, which is about somebody holding their scope and having a limited scope as well.
Yes.
Our
Yes. I
doctors
think
can't be everything to us.
yes, that's such a fantastic point, and I'm so glad that you made it. And ultimately, we have the power, right? Because that leaves you feeling very powerless if you go to
Yes.
your provider and you're asking for these tests, and they are saying no for good reason on their
Yes.
end. Like you said, it's not in their scope of practice. They don't know what to do with the results. But then you have the choice as the patient to find another provider who is comfortable with that, or find a functional provider, right? So we can take back our power,
Yes.
and that I think will help keep us out of that sympathetic dominant fight or flight feeling, because that really comes from that feeling like I'm trying to heal myself and you are getting in my way, you are stopping me. But there are so many wonderful providers out there that if it's just not a good fit, we move on and we find the fit that's right for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, in this season of midlife, we are all experiencing, especially like I said, women, so many changes, and we're getting so much information.
Yes.
So, beyond what we all know, that we should, eat a healthy diet and move our bodies and manage our stress and sleep properly, all those things. How do you help women to understand what's happening and what they need to be doing during this stage of life so that they can live with vitality and
Yes.
energy and lack of pain and just feel good in their bodies during this just really time of transition?
Yes. So we can really set ourselves up for success here. I'm 59, so I'm postmenopausal, right? This is a season of life that I've lived through, and I lived through it with relative ease. I was able to navigate those symptoms, and I believe that's because of my self-care. Not everybody's going to be that fortunate. There's going to be other things that happen. I'm going to introduce us to a model that helps us to think about what's happening and where we focus our attention. So this is a model I call 3 roots, many branches. And if anybody remembers anything from what I say today, if it is a sign, a symptom, or a diagnosis, it is a branch on the tree. And the difference between a sign and a symptom is if it can be measured, if you can speak it or not. So your fatigue is a sign, whereas your rash is a symptom. Your fever is a symptom, right? So just understanding that even when we go to our doctors, when we're conflating signs and symptoms, we may be speaking Japanese and Chinese at the same time, because one they can measure and one
Mm-hmm.
only you can tell them. If you have
Right.
pain, they can't measure your pain. If you're unconscious, they can't tell that you're fatigued or have a headache, right? So
Mm-hmm.
understanding if it's a sign, if it's a symptom or it's a diagnosis, it is a branch on the tree. And what that means is it's an expression of what's happening deeper within. So if we get out of the branches and we come down through the trunk and we go deeper still to the roots, we all can be empowered to nourish the soil or the terrain that those roots live in. And in my 3 roots, many branches model, the 3 roots for any chronic condition, meaning it's just not getting better, are our genes, our digestion, and our inflammation. So those are
Mm-hmm.
the 3 roots. If we just focus on our genes are written in stone, but they're not expressed. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have the ability to shift the expression of our genes. And that's a field of science called epigenetics. And
Mm-hmm.
those epigenetic factors around our genes are our food, our movement, our environment, and our mindset. And I
Mm.
would love to talk about mindset a little bit, but I want to make
Mhm.
sure that that grounding of those principles makes sense. Each of
Mhm.
those three roots, the genes, the digestion, and the inflammation, have soil that I've
Mhm.
defined that give us areas we can be working on and slowing down. So when I say food, I'm not talking about eating a ketogenic diet to lose weight or intermittent fasting. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about your body. I don't subscribe to any dietary theories, but I'm going to give you my three dietary principles.
Mhm.
Number one, eat fat, fiber, and protein at every single meal or snack.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
going to help regulate your blood sugar, give you energy, feed your microbiome, all the good things. So, fat,
Mhm.
fiber, protein at every meal or snack. Number two, eat the rainbow. Get those phytonutrients in. They have so many benefits and powers for many of the branches or symptoms we're experiencing. And
Mhm.
number three, know your yes, no, maybe list.
Mhm.
This feels good when I eat it. I don't feel great when I eat a candy bar at 3, when I eat dairy, when I drink wine, when I come home, it feels good, but then I crash. Just tuning in and slowing down to you and kind of clocking what's happening is a
Mhm.
great opportunity to start to figure out your risk reward scenario.
Mhm. Okay, I love that. I also want to ask you though, because actually this is something that personally happened in our life. So maybe you can speak to this.
Yes.
We had I have two children, and both of them were experiencing kind of weird stuff. I'll give you my son as an example. He would get sick very, very frequently, and the sickness was very vague. He would just start complaining of feeling weak and tired, and he genuinely looked tired, like he would have bags under his eyes, and he'd have to go to bed, and it would probably last a couple of days. And there were really no other symptoms. And then he'd rally, and then it would happen again, and we just kept going like this. And it was to the point, they'd run all the standard tests on him. Everything was coming back normal. And then he was tested through a functional provider, he was tested for celiac.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back having a positive genetic marker, and one of his antibodies was very high.
Mm-hmm.
So the provider just said, let's take him off gluten and
Yeah.
let's see what happens. And within a fairly short window of time, those episodes completely disappeared.
Yes.
So, how do people, I use that as an example because that's not like, okay, I ate dairy and then my stomach hurt, right? Or I drank
Correct.
wine and I couldn't sleep at night. Those are
Yes.
very direct links.
Yes.
But when you're dealing with symptoms that may be a little bit more on the vague side,
Yes.
how do we figure those out? How do we
Yeah. So
unlock
I
that?
think one way, and in functional nutrition, something we do is what I call the art of the practice: assess, recommend, and track. So our assessments don't need to be lab tests, but they can be deep interviewing and understanding and looking at the history. We create a timeline so we can understand, like for your son, my questions would be, when did this start in his
Mm-hmm.
life? What can we learn about when that happens? Like, how do we become detectives and
Mm-hmm.
take that agency not into belly button staring, but into like, let me just take notes of what happens here and what do I notice that's different in
Okay.
this scenario. In that particular scenario with your son, I would likely be eliminating some foods if I didn't have a clue, even without the testing,
Mm-hmm.
just to see if we couldn't make any patterns come together. What happens for a short period of time if we make this change, if we make that change? I would also, I mean, this is me as a provider. I would probably be looking at the other labs differently than a
Mm-hmm.
traditional provider would be
Right.
looking at them. So I would see some of the immune factors. So somebody who can have that expertise to bring to the table. But we can self experiment, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do it in extreme ways. So what I might be looking at in a situation like that are the top 3 inflammatories. What happens if I remove refined sugar from the diet? Does anything change? Let's track for 2 weeks and make sure that you as a family or you as
Mm-hmm.
an individual have the skill set to replace the things that you are missing or that feed your joy in some other way. So we're not just going into deprivation. Usually in a situation where I can't figure out what's going on, top three inflammatories for me are going to be refined sugar, gluten, and dairy. And then I'm going to look and see how is everything looking? What happens when we reintroduce? What can we learn even without the genetic marker that told us about the celiac, which we might not all have access to. So it's really experimentation, slow and steady, to learn what can I actually discern. And then I know a mediator.
Yeah.
Right? What your son knows now in functional medicine, we call a mediator something that makes you feel better and something that makes you feel worse. My yoga every morning helps me feel better. My dance class at night helps me feel better. Hydrating, going to bed by, like those become the things that empower us because we know them about ourselves. And sometimes we have to experiment to discover those things. And when we go too far, too fast, which a lot of women, especially driven women, do, we miss the opportunity for the learning because we've made it so extreme that it's something we can't live with. And then we lose the opportunity for the learning. So I prefer slow and steady.
Okay, that makes sense. And that is something people can do at home. They can,
Correct.
really start journaling and keeping track and eliminating those top three. And that's a great suggestion for people to try at home when things seem a little bit more mysterious
Yes.
about what's going on. So what about I'm going to call them normal. I don't know if you will agree with me, but the normal symptoms of the perimenopause, menopause era, things like hot flashes and tiredness. And I mean, the list could go on. It really
Right.
is an endless, it really is
It
quite
is.
an endless list. So do you consider those normal or do you consider those a dysfunction of the body?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, a little of both. So a yes and, because our hormone production is changing pretty significantly during that time. So we are experiencing a big physiological shift. So I just want to normalize the reality that certain organs and glands are not producing the hormones that we're used to having in circulation. And we're going to feel those. So the ebbs and flows we would feel during our cycle are gonna be all over the place, and we're gonna feel the deprivation of hormones. Estrogen and progesterone, our two sex hormones, are in a relationship to each other. So as that relationship shifts, we're going to feel the impacts of that difference. It's like a balancing scale, and we could become more estrogen dominant. We could lose our progesterone. It's going to be different for all of us. So we hear these things, and it really is unique to each of us. Like, I know estrogen dominance is talked about a lot. I've taught classes on estrogen dominance. I have one on YouTube. I don't make any estrogen. Like, I'm not estrogen dominant. Like, there's just no estrogen. So, like, we're unique and remembering that. So, physiologically, we are going to experience the symptoms. The management of those symptoms is really unique and dependent on the rest of the terrain. So again, back to those symptoms being branches, but the roots and the soil allow us to have the adaptability to manage and mitigate those symptoms with more resilience. As I study longevity and aging beyond midlife, that resilience and adaptability is a huge part of aging successfully. So we want the body to be able to withstand changes. And so I want to normalize, yes, physiologically change is happening, and we can support our body in the soil to manage those changes.
Okay.
Little example for me, I didn't have many symptoms through menopause, but I did have hot flashes at night. And what I was able to determine through that tracking that we're talking about is when my adrenal hormones, when my cortisol was amped up, either I had a really hectic day, I went to sleep too late, or I engaged with some media that got me
Mm-hmm.
amped up at night, I had more hot flashes. So I put things in place to make sure I was going to bed on time,
Mm-hmm.
to which for me was 9:30 or 10. I really made sure I was disengaging from anything that would get me riled up in the
Mm-hmm.
evening, and I wouldn't have those hot flashes. So that wasn't like a progesterone deficiency or an estrogen deficiency. It was me able to use lifestyle medicine
Right.
to mitigate the symptoms. I just want to give everybody a little triangle if they're not watching.
Mm-hmm.
The way I look at hormones and hormone management, at the base of the pyramid or the triangle is blood sugar management,
Mm-hmm.
which goes back to our fat, fiber, protein at every meal,
Mm-hmm.
then insulin production, then cortisol production, then thyroid hormones, then sex hormones. So our sex hormones are being influenced by everything beneath it. And if we bypass that to work just on the sex hormones, which I'm not opposed to, but I'm saying we're missing opportunities to create more of that physiological, biological resilience when we skip to the
Okay.
top of the pyramid. So we can all work on our blood sugar
Mm-hmm.
and our cortisol by
Mm-hmm.
that nervous system regulation, that deep breathing, that bedtime, sleep, poop, blood sugar balance, all that's going to help with your
Yes.
hormones.
Yes. Okay, that's great. That's great. So, how would you help women if they're out there and they're like, lifting the weights and I've got my walking vest and I'm taking 25 supplements and I'm doing all the things, which let me tell you, I am not judging. I have a weighted vest. I have started weightlifting. I
Yeah, me
take
too.
several supplements that I've heard
Yes.
are good for midlife. Like I'm doing all of those things.
Yes.
Um, but if you're in the overwhelm, if you're
Yes.
like, my head is spinning, I cannot even decide which thing I should or should not be doing. How do we step out of the overwhelm?
Yes. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I've been reading a book every 2 weeks on longevity. My biggest takeaways are balance and your gums. Like,
Huh.
biggest takeaways, work on your mouth, your oral health,
The
because it's
gums,
a
I've not heard
portal,
this one before. Okay.
portal
Okay.
portal to your entire system and your balance. Like I got a slack block, 2 minutes every day on one foot. When I go to the gym and I'm lifting weights, I stand on like a little Bosu between my sets. Let your ankles gain some
Yeah.
stability. Like there's little things we can do. It doesn't have to be the big things.
Yeah. Shameless plug for yoga. We do all that in yoga with the balance bear.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good. Plug that yoga. Balance is key.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I want to remind us is to think about why we're doing what we're doing. So one of the things I would do with a client is have them do a supplement tracker. What am I taking? Why am I taking it? What have I heard about it? And what is it doing? Do I notice any difference? So I would prefer that if we're taking supplements, it's to address a deficiency and not because something we were sold by the supplement industrial complex or the menopause
Okay.
industrial or the longevity industrial complex
Yeah.
as a fix, because
Okay.
balance can come and I mean like physiological balance can come
Yeah.
in a multitude of ways. We might not need all those supplements, and those supplements may not be serving our individual needs,
Yeah.
especially when they have a lot of things in one product.
Product. So that's a great question about supplements, because there are certain supplements that are really highly recommended pretty much across the board. But when I personally have used them, I am like, am I literally flushing money down the toilet because I don't feel anything? So things like fish oil or What's another? Oh, a probiotic. These are things that I personally have used for long periods of time and then wound up stepping away from because they are very costly and I wasn't feeling a difference. However, there was also the thought process that maybe I'm not feeling a difference, but maybe it is somehow helping me. So, do you have thoughts on that or recommendations
Yeah.
on that?
I do have signature supplements that I would say are baseline, and the two you mentioned are part of my personal baseline. So when I say personal, I mean personal and professional. So
Hmm.
I would say our fish oil or our essential fats, whether we're eating them or taking them, and we can eat them too, but we're going to get a higher dose taking a good quality. Is good for our heart, good for our brain, good for our
Hmm.
immune system. It's really supportive. Our probiotics, again, we can eat them. We can feed our microbiome in a number of ways, but I do like a probiotic more than a multivitamin.
Hmm.
So for me, those are two kind of baseline supplements that
Okay.
I'd rather have in the picture, and magnesium because we tend to be really deficient, and that can be something that we take at night. There's more
Okay.
depending on the individual, but those three I feel like are pretty baseline necessary. A lot of the other things we're taking might be extraneous on top of that, unless we're actually taking something for a deficiency. As an
Okay.
example, we're not going to feel our vitamin D levels being low, but
Mhm.
getting our vitamin D levels into range is beneficial on a number of levels, including for our hormones.
Okay. Okay. So that's great. So, and a lot of even the vitamin D, that's kind of one of the basic ones that I think most practitioners recommend. I guess I'm going back to my probiotic and my fish oil. Those fish oil pills are so big. I hate
I
taking them.
know.
And now let's talk about, so you're saying you're taking a deep dive into longevity, which is also such a, fascinating topic to me. I've just the whole blue zone idea, like all the things, it's so fascinating. So what have you been finding related to longevity with this? Well, I guess all areas, but I want to make sure we talk about mindset and we talk about
Yeah.
purpose. So let's
Yes.
start with that and see where
Yeah.
we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, in the Blue Zones, which was the first book in my book club, we have a year-long book club. Literally, I'm reading a book every 2 weeks.
That's
They don't
amazing.
have to, but I
Yeah, yeah.
am. The purpose is really a key piece of the puzzle, like having purpose, being on purpose. And I will say what led me to the realm of longevity and, speaking woman to woman here was really recognizing that my kid didn't need me anymore. He was choosing me, but he didn't need me to parent in the same way I was used to. And that really took me by surprise because so much of my purpose, even though I'm a business owner, I've built a really large business, like my second child, but
Yeah.
part of my identity was this particular role. And I had to
Mhm.
realize, oh, wait a minute, that role is changing. More roles are going to change. And
Mhm.
I say that as like a whisper in the 40 something year old's ears
Yeah.
because we do identify whether we're parents or not with
Mhm.
the roles we have in midlife. We've worked hard for them. We
Mhm.
hold them really close to our hearts, and they are going to change. The world
Yeah.
doesn't want us in the same way. Our families might not want us, our workplaces. And that doesn't mean we're done. I'm not done.
Mhm.
I still have a lot to do. So
Yeah.
anchoring on like purpose for me was like, where does this fit in the longevity equation? It
Mhm.
is huge. When we look at ageism, the countries and cultures that aren't experiencing ageism hold their elders in a high regard and respect what they bring to the table from their vantage point. So
Mhm.
that is, they have a purpose. They have the
Yeah.
purpose of their wisdom. We have to take that back for ourselves. And I feel like this is really my next body of work, the
Yeah.
female version of longevity, because the longevity space is very masculine right
Mhm.
now. It's all about optimizations and trackers and wearables and
Mhm.
supplements and medications and all the things that are in the realm of science and technology. And I'm not saying those are wrong. I'm just saying they are overwhelming and they are not necessary if we look over time and in different populations at what actually leads to longevity.
Yes.
So I just want to say that piece. It's a very, very masculine field that's trying to fix aging. And the truth
Yeah.
is, we are going to age.
Mm-hmm.
And something else I'm really looking for us to explore is we are going to die. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing has solved for
Right.
that equation. More
Yes.
people have lived longer, but not past a certain point.
Yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
that time 120 hasn't shifted.
Yeah.
So we're heading there. How do we head there in a way that honors our purpose,
Yeah.
our autonomy, our love, all the things, and
Yeah.
not be so afraid of it because culture has fed us a story that aging is bad. I do want to talk about mindset in relation to aging because the last 3 books I've read are phenomenal in talking about the power of our minds and our beliefs in
Mm-hmm.
aging. So, Becca Levy is a PhD professor at Yale, and she's the one who found the study or did the study that showed our beliefs about aging actually give us 7.5 more years if we have positive beliefs about aging
Whoa, that
than
is not a
those who
small number.
huge, huge. So she has studies, and her book is called Breaking the Age Code. And that's her first popular work. Her other work, she's a psychologist and epidemiologist. So she's done a lot of research around our mindset culturally and individually
Mm-hmm.
around aging. And I have to wonder what the science and technology and story we're being fed about not aging is
Mm-hmm.
doing counter to
Mm-hmm.
what we're
Mm-hmm.
looking to be able to live into. On top of that, the work of Ellen Langer, who's a Harvard professor, she has talked about different levels of mindset, which I kind of love because for me, mindset is a part of the epigenetic field, the food, movement, environment mindset, that
Mm-hmm.
soil. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always struggled, Katie, with like mindset because there's a lot of toxic positivity. Just think
Mm-hmm.
positive.
Right.
She gave me a framework that I felt like, oh, this takes it from that level 1 thinking is just think positive. You have to think positive or you're in trouble. You're
Yeah.
responsible if you didn't think positive.
Mm-hmm.
Level 2 thinking is this is inevitable, whatever, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
It's all happening. I got pre-diabetes. I'm going to get diabetes. And she does some amazing research around that. Level 3 thinking is what she calls mindful multiplicity. Okay, I'm aging. What does that mean? What do I want that to mean? What are the different options for me? How do I embrace all possibility as opposed to saying aging is a death sentence that has to look
Mm-hmm.
a certain way, or aging means I need to fix it so I'm still attractive or appealing or in this particular way? She just invites us to go, yeah, I want to be strong. I want to live on purpose. I want to be attractive to my partner. I want
Mm-hmm.
to have these things, and I can still have those in more ways than what's being fed to me that
Yeah.
needs to look like.
Yeah. Yeah. That is fantastic. I mean, there's so much that you said that I want to touch back on because it's so good. I do think when you said, you feel like this is your next body of work, it is so, so needed
Yeah,
because we don't live in a culture that upholds particularly women as they age as elders of society and community, and our culture does not have reverence for the knowledge and the
correct.
wisdom that we've gained over those years. And so when we're trying to live on purpose and feel like we're not done and we have more to give, it's more of an uphill battle because you're fighting that cultural wave that is coming at you,
Yes.
basically saying, go sit in your rocking chair. You're kind of done. You have nothing left to give. And so I think just knowing that also is helpful, right? So if we
Yes.
just acknowledge that this is what we're swimming in right now, we have the awareness that that's what it is. We can then prevent ourselves from internalizing it, right? Because
Yes.
sometimes we internalize things just because it's almost being absorbed through our skin,
Yes.
and because we are not aware of what's happening, right? So to just say that is untrue,
Yes.
regardless of what a culture is feeding you right now, and you have a choice. And what you're talking about is really inviting in loads of curiosity. Right?
Yes.
Loads of curiosity. How do I want to do this? I know I have value and I know that I can create my life at any stage of my life to be something that is meaningful and impactful to me, to my family, to the, community, to the world at large. But we have to, yes, we have to invite in curiosity because it's going to look different than it looked in our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. Like each new, level up, shall we call it,
Yes.
is going to have it's going to be changes in your
Yes.
mind and your body and your energy level, all these things, but we can invite curiosity and figure out how to create the life that we want. So that is like, so good. So, so good. And I know there was something else in there, but the
I'm
memory
just
these
going to say,
days.
oh, memory. There's so much like that. So another book we read was by Daniel Levitin, who wrote the book Mindful Aging. And he talks about how memory isn't going downhill unless it is
Right,
pathologically.
right.
It is actually evolving. And there are different kinds of memory that allow us to actually embrace what it is we are recalling. So anyway, there is a lot of scientific research that counters this story we're being sold. And I think my invitation in all you were saying, Katie, just then to reflect back on that is we have to uphold each other as aging women and
Yes.
notice where we are participating in ageist ideology, whether that's what we're engaging with online, just, softly. It's one of those things that like you don't think ageism exists, but when you start paying attention, you realize you're on the conveyor belt. I'm
Yeah.
in I'm the generation. I have a 24-year-old and an 86-year-old mother, and
Wow.
I'm constantly thinking, okay, how do I treat her in a way that I would want to be treated? However
Hmm.
frustrating her changes may be or what she's very capable. She goes to dance class three
Oh my
times a
God.
week and
Amazing.
plays mahjong three times a week. She's very capable, but just recognizing that certain things are a challenge and how do I offer grace in that
Mhm.
situation and recognize where she's being treated
Yeah.
with ageist ideologies. And I think we can just bring more attention to shifting the culture that we don't want to live in, not
Mhm.
by taking hormones or doing Botox, and nothing wrong with those things. Just
Mhm.
saying we can strive for our youthfulness and create a new society that
Yes.
does honor.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, what you were saying also before, which is you just said it's a very masculine, and what's being done now is very masculine. And it brings us back to what you were saying in the beginning of the conversation. It's like a fix it mentality. It's
Yes,
that fight or flight,
correct.
versus the embracing, the openness. And we do need to like hold ourselves accountable. But I think that a community is going to be huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be huge in
Absolutely.
this phase, and people want it. There's no
Yes.
doubt about it. People want that community. They want that particular sisterhood, that female community where we can hold each other up and buck what the cultural norm is, and
Yes,
start a revolution.
and still be all that we want to, still hold our moxie. We don't need to
Yes.
lose our moxie in that
Yes.
revolution.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, you can be whatever you want to be,
Yes.
right? That's the point. You don't,
Yes.
it's not predetermined just because it's your age. You
Correct.
can choose that you do enjoy a slower pace in life, or you can choose to like start your own business. Like you can
Yes.
do whatever you want. But
Absolutely.
it should be your choice. So to empower women to do that is beautiful.
Thank you for the conversation. I love talking through these things. It's so much fun.
Oh, me too. Me too. And I can't wait to see what you do next. So this is really exciting.
I'll be sure to let you know.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Andrea. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom. And I love your kitty cat there. I can see on the screen.
I know. She just came to join us.
She's so cute. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too, Katie. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Andrea and I covered a lot in this conversation, so I wanted to give you the takeaways. Functional medicine is about addressing the root cause and not just the symptoms. So if you personally have been struggling with a health issue and haven't been able to get the help that you need in a traditional healthcare setting, it may be time to see a functional medicine practitioner. Self-advocacy is also very important. So you, the patient, are part of the decision-making team, whether that be in standard healthcare or in functional medicine. If you feel that you're not being listened to, you're not being heard, someone is dismissing you or not allowing you to be collaborative in your healthcare decisions, then it's time to find a new provider. You have the power, you have the control. We can significantly impact our overall well-being by focusing on the basics: fat, fiber, protein at every meal, eating the rainbow, stress management, and nervous system regulation will all help us to feel better in this midlife phase and beyond. We should be focusing, if we are thinking about our hormones and feeling like our hormones are impacting how we feel, we also have to consider those other things that are under the triangle that Andrea mentioned: our blood sugar, our cortisol levels, our thyroid, and our overall sense of well-being. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we talked about the importance of purpose and mindset and community in the space of longevity. Social connection and meaningful engagement in things that feel purposeful to you creates a life of meaning and connection. And not just that, it actually changes your physiology and you live longer and you live healthier for longer. So I think Andrea's right. We do focus a lot on things like supplements and trackers and all of those masculine-dominated tools that Andrea was speaking of. And we sometimes can forget how important, likely more important than those things, are that sense of purpose and community in improving our health and our health span. So I hope this was helpful to you. I would love to have Andrea back specifically just to talk about the science of longevity. If that is something that sounds interesting to you, please let me know. If you're listening on Spotify, you can comment right there, or you can email me at katie@katiefarinas.com, or you can message me on Instagram, katie.farinas. I really want to bring guests onto this show to talk about subject matters that are really important to you, that you have burning questions about, you want to go deeper on, and I can't do that if I don't know what they are. So please let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Have a wonderful week. Namaste, my friends. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery here at the Midlife Purpose Project. I hope today's conversation sparked something deep inside of you, made you laugh, or reminded you that you are never alone. Remember, it's never too late to reconnect with your soul's purpose and live a life of meaning. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and review the show, or share it with someone who could use a little inspiration. It really helps the show reach more women and helps me keep the content ad-free. Join me next time as we continue to explore what it means to live with purpose in midlife.